Hi, this is Dr. Rodger Murphree, your FibroDoctor.com, author of Treating and Beating Fibromyalgia and Chronic Fatigue Syndrome. I've been in private practice for almost 3 decades, and I've specialized in fibromyalgia for almost 20 years. And over that time, I've been blessed to help thousands of patients feel good again. Heather Nelson in Canada is one of my favorite patients. She was 72 or 3 years old when when we first started, and she had been bedridden for a number of years. And one of the things that she really missed was getting out and attending to her beautiful garden. And you can see a picture of Heather. She's as pretty as her garden. And by working with me using this thing called the Murphree method, what I've pioneered over the last 20 years, I've been able to help patients get healthy and feel good again. And I'm going to talk to you about that process today in this short presentation. Jana was another patient of mine that was really dear to my heart, because when she came to me, she shared that she had been bedridden for almost a year, I believe, maybe even longer than that. And one of the things that she really missed was being able to get out in nature, spend time with her husband. They were really outdoors people, loved to hike and to be really, really active. But she had been sick for a number of years, and her husband shared with me that he really thought that this next Christmas that was coming up was going to be it for her. And fortunately, though, she was proactive enough, reached out to me, and we actually worked together by phone consults. That's how 95 or 99% of my practice is now, is phone consults, and I work with patients all over the world. But she was able, by using the Murphree method, these protocols that I've developed over the last 20 years, to not only get out of bed, but to get healthy and to be able to now to be active again. And she's still doing great some 6 years later. I share that with you because what we hear in the fibromyalgia community is a lot of doom and gloom. And we hear that once you get fibromyalgia, you just have to learn to live with it. I don't believe you need to learn to live with it. So who wants to live with diffuse achy, disabling pain, poor sleep, anxiety, depression, restless leg syndrome, irritable bowel? I mean, who wants to live with that? Nobody. That's not living. That's just existing. There's a lot of debate out there about what causes fibromyalgia. I've been doing this 20 years, and I feel like the theory that makes the most sense is that it's an overwhelming of your stress coping abilities to be able to handle stress. Now, let me explain that, because some people hear that and they think, oh, everybody gets under stress. It's very different for fibromyalgia patients. So what happens is we have this self-regulating system that controls how well or how poorly we deal with stress. And then we have a system that controls the different systems in the body. So we don't have to think about digesting food. We don't have to think about pumping blood through 60 miles of arteries and veins. We don't have to think about regulating our heart, 60 beats per minute. We don't have to think about breaking out in a little bit of a sweat, or here in the South, perspiration, when you go outside to cool yourself off. We don't have to think about, all these things that the body is doing without us having to think about. We can never do that. And this self-regulating system is controlled by 3 really main glands: the hypothalamus and the pituitary, which are both in our brains, and then the adrenal glands, which sit on top of our kidneys. But these 3 glands make up the HPA axis. And normally the HPA axis is able to control all these different systems in the body. But when particularly the hypothalamus, which is our body's own self-regulating computer system, when it gets under too much stress, it starts to interfere with its ability to coordinate and to regulate the different systems in the body. And it's very disruptive, because the hypothalamus controls our pain. Our pain. It controls how well or how poorly we sleep. It controls our immune system. It controls our digestion elimination system. It controls our metabolism, our energy. It controls so many different processes, and when it gets out of regulation, we start to have symptoms or warning signs in these different areas. So, with fibromyalgia, that means pain, poor sleep, low energy, sometimes weight gain, irritable bowel because you can't digest your food properly because the body's not able to coordinate these different systems that it needs to and regulate them for them to work properly. So the hypothalamus is, again, our self-regulating computer system, but when it gets under too much stress, it starts to shut down. Then you start having all these warning signs or symptoms that we see with fibromyalgia. I like to use the analogy that we're all born with a stress coping savings account. And in our stress coping savings account, we have certain chemicals that allow us to deal with stress. And the more stress that we're under, the more stress chemicals we use. Now, we make deposits into our stress coping savings account by getting deep restorative sleep, getting rest, taking the right nutrients. But for many people with fibromyalgia, you hadn't slept in years. And for those that are sleeping, most of you are taking sleep medications which actually don't put you into deep restorative sleep and actually deplete your stress coping chemicals even further. So you wake up every day with this stress and you try to get through the day, but stress becomes magnified. And when that happens, you see that little things that didn't used to bother you, whether that's going to the grocery store or trying to do a crossword puzzle, or for some of you even reading a book, is too overwhelming. When you deplete your stress coping chemicals and bankrupt your stress coping savings account, that is really the beginning of fibromyalgia. So you find that you don't sleep well at night, so you wake up, you're not rested. Because you're not getting deep restorative sleep and making deposits into your stress coping savings account, you see that certain chemicals that allow you to deal with stress become depleted, like serotonin. Now, the lower your serotonin level, the stress coping hormone, the lower your pain threshold, which means pain is magnified. The lower your serotonin level, the more anxious you are, the more depressed you are, the more likely to have irritable bowel syndrome. You have more serotonin receptors in your intestinal tract than you do in your brain. When you get low in serotonin, you find that you oftentimes will have mental clarity issues, what we call fibro fog. So one of the key things is getting deep restorative sleep, but that's easier said than done, right? So what happens is when you finally do get the diagnosis of fibromyalgia, and oftentimes that may take 12 different doctors in 7 years. They keep passing you from one doctor to the next. This is the medical merry-go-round where you see, your general practitioner, and then you see a neurologist, and then you see a rheumatologist, maybe a psychiatrist and a pain doctor. And before you know it, they've got you on half a dozen to a dozen drugs. And what you should realize, if you hadn't already, is that conventional medicine has pretty much given up on fibromyalgia. What they're going to tell you is that you're just going to have to learn to live with it. And they've come to this conclusion, erroneously by the way, because you don't. That's what this presentation is about. That's what my mission is all about, is you don't have to learn to live with it. What they have found is that their approach, which is based on covering up symptoms, so they give you a drug for every symptom, so they give you a drug to put you to sleep, drug to wake you up, drug to slow you down, drug to speed you up, drug for pain, drug for irritable bowel, drug for low moods, drug, the list goes on and on. The problem with that is that every drug has a potential side effect, and using drugs to cover up symptoms usually leads to more symptoms and more drugs. And let's face it, for most of you, you're taking medications and you still don't feel good. Many of you can't leave the house each day because you can't handle the stress. You've lost friends, you've lost family members or support for family members because you can't make any plans because you don't know, is this going to be a good day or a bad day? So eventually people give up on you. And then if you're not careful, you get so down, you give up on yourself. Hopefully that's not the case. But with conventional medicine, they've learned over the years that drug therapy doesn't work. They look at the over a 15-year period of surveys and research, clinical surveys, they see that people who take drug therapy are no better off 15 years later. In fact, they're actually worse off. So the conclusion, again, and this is not true, but doctors will have come to the conclusion that we can give you medication to treat the symptoms. We can give you pain medication, we give you sleep medication, we give you antidepressants, we can give you things to calm you down, we give you things to speed you up, we give you things for restless leg syndrome. The problem though is there's so many symptoms with fibromyalgia. If you're not careful, you're on half a dozen to a dozen drugs. And that's not healthy. That is the antithesis, the opposite of healthy. Drugs don't make you healthy. You can't drug your way out of fibromyalgia, but that is the mentality of traditional medicine right now. So what happens is they know that the drugs don't work because you keep coming back every 3 months or 6 months and you're no better. In fact, many of you continue to get worse and worse and worse. And so what they eventually do, they'll tell you, well, you just have to learn to live with it because they don't have anything else for you. The only thing they know to do is to give you more drugs. And again, drugs aren't the answer. They create more problems. And then, eventually you probably realize that. That's why you're here, and you get very frustrated. But now what do you do? Because your doctor tells you this is all I've got. This is it. Well, I know that's incredibly frustrating, but fortunately there is a better way. For the last 20 years, I've been fortunate enough to work with some wonderful people who have this thing called fibromyalgia. And what you need to realize that fibromyalgia is just a name. Now, fibromyalgia doesn't cause anything. Fibromyalgia is a syndrome, a name given to a group of symptoms that people have in common. Poor sleep, diffuse, achy, sometimes disabling pain, low energy, low moods, anxiety, irritable bowel, restless leg syndrome, migraine headaches. And it's, it can be all these different things. It's different things to different people, but there's some common things that people share. And if they do, we call this fibromyalgia. Well, what you need to realize is that fibromyalgia is just a name. It doesn't cause anything. But what doctors will do, they'll try to sweep all your fibromyalgia symptoms underneath the fibromyalgia rug and tell you that, well, you're low energy just because you have fibromyalgia. Your pain's because you have fibromyalgia. You can't sleep because you have fibromyalgia. You have low moods because you have fibromyalgia. You have restless leg syndrome because you have fibromyalgia. You have irritable bowel. And it just goes on and on. They never give you any answers other than to tell you that this is part of fibromyalgia. You need to learn to live with it. But what I want to encourage you to please understand is that symptoms are warning signs. No different than if the oil light comes on in your car, or if the low windshield wiper light comes on, windshield fluid light comes on. These are just warning signs that you need to take action. Unfortunately, most people who are not in healthcare don't know what action to take, so they're dependent on others to tell them or to share with them what to do. And in the conventional medical world, it's all been about using a drug to treat a symptom. And fibromyalgia, and you know this to be true, that just doesn't work. It doesn't work. So I want to encourage you to learn more about what's called the Murphree method, which is based on using high doses, but the right doses and combinations of vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and essential fatty acids, and doing special testing when needed, either on your own or working with me, that will find and then fix the underlying causes of your symptoms, that will find and fix the reason why you have chronic pain, to find and fix the reason why you have low energy, to find and fix the reason why you have irritable bowel syndrome. It's not merely enough to be on a drug to treat the symptom. What you want to do is be able to find and fix the causes. And by doing that, as you start to fix these causes, not only do you feel better, but you start getting healthy. And the key to overcoming fibromyalgia is to get healthy and so that you stay that way. That's what my program is about. So you look at some of these individuals that I've worked with. Cynthia is one of my patients that, as you can see, she was bedridden, and quite a dramatic turnaround for her. Same with Rhonda. She had been bedridden, and her husband had shared with me, like John's husband, that they really thought that this was going to be only a matter of months, maybe the last year, and then she would probably not be here another year because she was so sick. And I don't share that to be a doom and gloom. I share that to say that it doesn't matter where you're at, how bad you are with this thing called fibromyalgia, and it can be really, really bad. It robs you of your health, your vitality, your hope, your family sometimes, your friends, your job, but doesn't mean that you have to stay that way. Certainly you don't have to learn to live with it. By using the Murphree method, I've been successful in helping thousands of patients feel good again, and I'm on a mission to help those who want to help themselves. And there's 3 ways to do it. I've put together 3 different programs that individuals who want to work with me can utilize to then start to get healthy and feel good again. Because there's not one approach that's going to work for everybody. Some people are going to be happier working in a self-help program. Other people will work with me in a group coaching program that I have. And then other people realize they're just so complicated, so run down, they're going to need one-on-one coaching with me, and they join me in that program, and they work with me over a period of time to get healthy and to feel good again. I really believe that your best days are ahead of you. If this makes sense to you and you're willing to take action. Now, if you're not willing to take action, I can't help you. Over the last 20 years, I've beat my head against the wall trying to figure out, what can I do to help more people with fibromyalgia? So certainly the one-on-one program is probably the fastest way to get your health back, feel good again, and have a life. But I also recognize that that might not be the best approach for some folks. Some folks need something else. And that's why I've created the self-help program and the group coaching program. The next step for you, if this makes sense to you, if you want to find out more about, if I have a program that will work for you to get your life back, then I would encourage you to fill out the application process. Yes, it's an application. I don't work with just anybody. I work with those who are ready to take action, and if needed, change their lifestyle if they need to, change their diet, do what is needed to get healthy so they stay that way. And so there's an application process. It's a very short application process. I think it's 7 or 8 questions. Once you fill that out and you submit that, then one of my staff members will give you a call and go over that with you, and then share with you what are the next steps that you need to take then to interact with me. I look forward to working with you. I do. I'm passionate about helping those with fibromyalgia get their life back. I really believe that this whole idea about learning to live with it is it's a tragedy. Really, it's a tragedy, and we have a whole generation of people that are going to go through that, and they're never going to have a life. Life is too short to learn to live with this stuff. Now, for some of you, you're going to continue to make excuses, continue to look for other doctors in your area, because if you work with me one-on-one, it's by phone. If you work with me in the group coaching program, it's by internet and Facebook and some of these other things that we have. And you can continue to look for other doctors, but you're going to be looking for a needle in a haystack. Most doctors, sad but true, have given up on fibromyalgia because they don't understand it, may not even believe in it. We still have doctors like that today, unbelievable but true. Or they just don't have time for you. You're too complicated. So I encourage you, if this resonates with you, don't wait. Go ahead and reach out. This is what this is all about. This is my mission, is to help those who want to get well, feel good again, and have a life. And you can do so here. You can see the website there where you go and fill out the application. And I look forward to meeting many of you very, very soon. I look forward to making you another success story. This is Dr. Rodger Murphree, your FibroDoctor.com, author of Treating and Beating Fibromyalgia and Chronic Fatigue Syndrome. Thanks for watching this presentation. I believe for many of you, this is going to be a big step in the right direction. For many of you, it's going to be life-changing, and for some of you, it's going to be life-saving. Thanks for joining me.